So you know, like when you're sitting in your living room and it's like, it's time for a change. That change is happening right now. We've had the same setup for a decade, since we moved in. Same TV, same IKEA build-out thing, same rug. Don't smell it. There is no 5-second rule on that rug. So we bought a new TV. Things are going pretty good, but that IKEA stuff has got to go. I mean, I already took down one side of it and we used it for like a closet, like organization thing. The rest of it is just bad. So I sat down with my wife and we hashed out like our wants and needs for this new TV stand. I got all excited and I was like, how about we have like hydraulics come up and that way the TV comes out? No. What if we put some like lights that kind of integrate into the, no. Can it have like a little like secret compartment for like all of our weapons? No. Can I put Barndoors on it? Yeah. And look, I shouldn't be so critical of my wife's decisions because frankly, I was one of them. So I'm gonna build a boring ass TV stand with Barndoors on it. Look, I'm gonna actually try to do like nice woodworking, fine woodworking, the kind that you have a cognac with.
Pardon me, would you have any
Tight bond too.
But of course.
Tight bond too.
It even has wine.
Yeah. All right, so pieces are cut, but in order to get the carcass ready, I like to do a couple things. I gotta measure and see where the walls are going on the inside of this. I like to take a piece of cut off and put that right next to that line so I know exactly where that board's supposed to sit. Also, it makes it easier to see where my screws are gonna be in order to get the dead center of that board. If you drill down and flip it over, there's no guesswork in seeing if you're getting dead nuts in the middle of that thing. Also, I cut my spacers already, and this is pretty much just gonna help me attach these boards and make sure that everything's nice and square. You know this trusty fella right here? Yeah, you can use it upright, but you can also clamp it to the side of your board to make that easier. But sometimes this thing's just a little bit too big, a little too cumbersome. This is my very first pocket hole jig right here, and this thing's got some miles on it. I got along with this for quite some time. It's a little broken, it's a little janky, but every once in a while you get to like that weird corner where this thing just won't fit and this guy just comes to save the day. If you're just starting off, this is a good place to start. Also, with having these lines kind of put into place, I know where these walls are gonna be. Down the road, I'm gonna be putting where's it at? I'm gonna be putting one of these little cord holes. What do you call this thing? Cord management hole? I'll be using one of these things, but in order to get this thing installed, you gotta use a screw. You need a circle saw in order to do that. With these lines in place, I can get a good idea. Do I have enough room? I do. That way I can put this hole where it needs to go once this thing's all assembled, instead of cutting it now and praying it works. Let's make a carcass. You know what I'm talking about, Tom. I don't know. So typically when you're making a cabinet, you want to have this piece of wood actually stand right on top of your bottom piece. That way that weight is actually on the wood and not so much on the hardware. However, you get that gritty look of plywood right there, and I just don't want to deal with it. So I'm just gonna bump it down, cover up that plywood, and hope the screws hold. Now it's time to kind of build a toe kick for it. I usually see this like in kitchens and stuff like that, but this is a living room. This is where my kids play, and we need something so that way like Legos and Barbie shoes aren't always sneaking underneath this. So I'm gonna be putting leveling legs on there. The toe kick's gonna kind of hide that. The problem we have with the leveling legs is it goes like on the edge of the wood, and you can kind of see this hangs out quite a bit. I don't want that because it's gonna create that gap for more toys to get underneath. So all we really have to do is just kind of put a small dado on there, and that way this little shelf on the side just kind of slides in there, and from the front you can't even see it. If you think putting plastic on this before you stain it is overkill, it's not. Because every single time, I'm gonna be a good boy and not flick the brush and get splatters everywhere. Luckily this is the bottom, so who gives a shit? Now before we put the shelf pins in, shelf pin holes. Before we put the shelf pin holes in, I saw in some video that if you actually take your drill and drill it in reverse, you get less tear out. Let's find out. Apparently if you drill in reverse, it won't drill. All right, correction. You kind of see these ones are just straight through and they do have some tear out in the edges, but if you start the holes in reverse and then finish it going forwards, you get a much cleaner result. Cover up these edges right here that are still exposed, that poopy plywood area. We're gonna use edge banding, also known as glue-on veneer, and 5 other things. Now typically when you put this on, you just heat it up and the glue on the other side will just stick right to it. But wonderfully, my cool little vintage iron decided to take a crap on me today. R.I.P. bud. So, we'll use a heat gun. We'll use a heat gun. It works just as well, just a little bit slower. And you might burn your fingertips a little bit. Make sure to take your time hand sanding these edges so that way it looks perfect. And when I say perfect, it looks like real solid wood. And that way it's not all like fake filler on the inside, like me.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
I got this barn door kit off of Amazon, and most of the time it's in metric and it's a guideline at best.
This thing reads like stereo instructions.
Every once in a while I get lucky though.
Thanks. I like to play.
So now I just need doors. I've made doors. You've seen me make doors. I've made doors. Doing everything the same except for one little thing. I got a new little contraption for Christmas. You know, like that, like when I get done with the router, there's always like that curved edge in there. You just kind of stick this dude in the corner. You get a right angle. Hopefully it works. Something I've never done before, gluing up like a big old board. It seems pretty straightforward, a lot of clamps, a lot of glue. Hopefully it works out. I'm gonna start small. I'm just gonna do just the center planks with just 5 boards and see how that goes. And if things are looking in my favor, we'll keep going.
The next morning.
Looks good, phase 2.
Hours later.
Clamps are off. Used a crappy chisel just to get rid of some of the squeeze out for the glue. For my first glue up, I'm pretty stoked. It looks great. It's got some racing stripes on it. And it's pretty level. The only thing was this dark walnut right here is just a little bit proud on the surface, so we have to plane that down. I could use a hand plane. Get it? But I'm gonna use a different one. Performance! This is an electric hand plane. I am terrified of this thing. It's all done. You know, for me trying to really do fancy, sophisticated, like traditional woodworking, I couldn't help myself. A lot of like those little industrial elements kind of snuck in there, but I think it's a good like yin and yang. I love it. All in all, it seems like my wife loves it too. What more could you ask for? Couple little whoopsies here and there, but I think the mantra for this build was, no one's gonna see it. Well, I got one more build under my belt for this season. I think for the 12th episode, I'm gonna do like a mailbag episode. So if you have any questions, ask me anything. How did a build go? Did you have a question about graffiti? How did that thing hold up from that one build? If you do have a question about a specific episode, leave a comment on that episode, and that way I can kind of answer that. It's a wrap.